Korean War veteran Sergeant Willis Franklin McNeil is coming home to Weatherford. Sergeant McNeil was declared missing in action in 1950 during the Battle of Cha Sin Reservoir, and his remains were only recently identified. His family has invited the community to help welcome him home and honor his service at his funeral on Monday, August 31st. It'll be at the Galbraith Pickard Funeral Home, and then full military honors at East Greenwood Cemetery following. And then we've got Clear the Shelter this Saturday, August 29th from 11 to 4. Adoption fees will be waived. And in addition to plenty of four-legged friends looking for homes, there will be food trucks, snow cones, and a local vendor market, and even a water slide. Come hungry, bring the family, and just know there's a very good chance you'll leave with more than what you came with.
For sure.
And save the date for National Night Out on Tuesday, October 6th. This year's Toy Story themed event is a fun, relaxed way to meet first responders who serve our community, along with several other city departments. Round up your favorite deputies, space rangers, and little green aliens, and join us for an evening that's sure to be worth buzzing about. And we've still got more to do around Weatherford. First up, we've got our Storytime Spotlight returning at Weatherford Public Library on Thursday, August 27th. This time we're featuring Weatherford firefighters. You can meet the crew and explore a fire engine. On September 8th, Food Truck Lounge Night returns to Heritage Park from 6 to 9 p.m. And September 11th, grab a blanket or lawn chair for Movies in the Park featuring Hoppers. The movie starts when it gets dark, but come early for food trucks and claim a good spot. For more details on these and other events, please visit experienceweatherford.com.
Oh.
And before we wrap it up, we have one more important item of community interest. City Manager James Hotop has reached an age where he's got plenty of experience, plenty of wisdom, and zero interest in anyone making a big deal about his birthday, so we're gonna do it now. All right, he'll join us and sing happy birthday. We had to have a little fun for your big day, since you're stuck here with all of us tonight.
Aaron's review is tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. It's amazing what staff will do and not do during budget time. Oh, I guess I can take this off now. That'd be great. Now, I know we operate real conservatively, and I know I've seen these before. I know we're going to use them again, right? Hey, just another happy birthday, James, by the way.
Thank you.
Just a word about Mayor Tom Vick. For 7.5 years, I've sat here and looked at this gavel here, and it says Tom Vick, 1982 to 1986. And on occasion, I've sent him a text or a picture of it and go, hey, Mayor Vick, we still hadn't forgotten about you up here. And we haven't, but golly, special meeting now, right? So Tom Vick was the second youngest mayor in the history of the city of Weatherford. He was a young man, I believe he was in his early 30s. The youngest mayor of the city of Weatherford, to kind of tell you the regard you should hold him in, was former United States Congressman and Speaker of the House, Jim Wright, who was the youngest mayor ever in the history of Weatherford. So I know that we talked about Mayor Vick and our condolences to him and his family, but he had an impact on the city of Weatherford. And for any mayor that I've looked back into the history and heard about the things he participated in, he was a visionary that believed in the citizens of Weatherford and believed in the quality that we should have. So thank you for letting me share that. City Council, any items of community interest from y'all? Mr. City Manager?
No.
Got to get going fast before you get tired. You have that birthday, you're getting older and everything. Let's see here. Let's move down to item 5, which is approval of the minutes. 5A is consider approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting held August 11th, 2026. Appears we have a motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Smith, second provided by Rod White. Is there any discussion or corrections, conversations on the minutes? Hearing none, let's vote on them. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And minutes pass. Council will shift down to item 6, which is consent agenda items. We have items 6A through E. We can entertain those as a body, or if there's anything you want to split out and talk about individually, say so now. One more time on that button. Motion for approval of the body by Luke Williams.
As a body, yes, Mayor.
All righty. Rod White provided a second on approval of the body. Any questions or conversations on items 6A through E, council? Hearing none, please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens related to these items, and that body of consent items passes. We will shift down to item 7 on the agenda, which is regular agenda items. 7A is hold a public hearing on the city manager's proposed FY27 budget. We welcome Ashley Escobar.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As required by state law, we are holding this public hearing on the proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year. I'd like to confirm that we have met all legal requirements. The budget has properly been filed with the city secretary. Notice of this hearing was published in the Weatherford Democrat. The budget has been made available for public review at City Hall, the library, as well as the city website. To recap this budget, it maintains Weatherford's strong position. Our reserve levels will remain more than 120 days of operational funding. Our general fund is balanced with a marginal surplus, and the budget was built using less than the no new revenue rate. For those who did not have an opportunity to see the budget presentation from last council meeting, I'd like to provide a similar summary before we open the floor to public comments. So let's focus on the general fund, which is the city's main operating fund. The FY27 proposed budget includes $61.4 million in revenues and $61.3 million in expenditures, which does result in a balanced budget with a marginal surplus of approximately $65,000. The FY27 general fund budget does propose the use of $3.2 million in fund balance reserves for one-time allocations. Our fund balance projection shows we will end this current year with $3.5 million, which is equivalent to 210 working days of operation. From this total, $13.6 million remains accessible beyond our 120-day reserve requirement. To highlight two of our major revenue sources, first being sales tax, which is our principal revenue generator. We are projected at $23.6 million for FY27, which does reflect a 7% growth from previous fiscal year. Next is our property tax, which is our second largest and most stable revenue source. Proposed rate of .392246 per $100 of assessed value. This is equivalent to last year's rate and less than the no new revenue rate by 1 cent. This represents the 6th year in the past 7 that we have adopted and or proposed a rate equal to or less than the no new revenue rate. This upholds our position as having one of the most competitive tax rates regionally. And due to the implementation of House Bill 9, property tax revenue is flat with the previous year. Next, we'll move on to expenditures. Looking at general fund expenditures, they fall into 4 main categories. Personnel costs is our largest with 57% of our budget, which is followed by contractual services at 36%. Supplies comprise 5% of that, and finally the capital outlay makes up 2%. And if you look at the spending by department, police and fire continue to make up largest share of general fund expenditures, which does reflect City Council's continued focus on public safety. And just to touch on a few of FY27 investment highlights, we'll start with the personnel enhancements, which do include the addition of a deputy court clerk, which this position will be completely supported by increased court-generated revenue. Next will be allocations for a canine dog replacement, as Jack will be beginning his transition to retirement sometime in the next year. Moving on to capital improvements. Park enhancements, which do include the replacement of Love Street Park's playground as well as a restroom renovation. Sustained commitment of $3 million for street repair and improvements. $785,000 for vehicle and equipment replacements. $827,000, which is allocated for replacement of public safety equipment, which does include cardiac monitors and self-contained breathing apparatus. The budget includes allocations to continue advancement and completion of several major capital projects that are already in progress. These include McGrattan Park Skate Park reconstruction, Hallen Lake Park renovation, Development Services and Park Administration office renovation, Phase 2 of animal shelter improvements, construction of Fire Station 5, the Public Works and Parks Warehouse, and transportation initiatives which do include Lamar Street, Claremont Boulevard, and Kirkpatrick Drive. The FY27 budget process will continue on to the September 8th council meeting. In addition to the public hearing tonight, we will also be presenting the annual grant funding request, as well as voting to formally propose the tax rate. On our September 8th meeting, we'll feature a public hearing on the proposed tax rate, adoption of the FY27 budget, ratification of the FY27 budget if necessary, and the final adoption of the tax rate. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have before we do open it to the public.
Yeah, Council, no action tonight on item 7A. We do have a public hearing. Are there any questions for staff prior to that? Okay, I've got a few. Probably wait till afterwards if that's okay. Thank you for the presentation again. Very, very thorough, very transparent. We appreciate that. At this time, we'll open up a public hearing on item 7A. If there's anybody who'd like to speak on that item specifically, now's your opportunity to come forward. Item 7A. Public hearing has been open. Seeing no takers, we will close that public hearing. And Council, I know I have just a few questions. Anybody else have anything? Just me. So thanks for coming back up. Sorry, I'm juggling glasses. You know, if I have them on, I can't see. If I have them, you know, some of you know, some of you don't, but you will someday. Let's talk about, House Bill 9. It's concerning, and we've been educated on that and the impact that it's having. It was a supposed property tax relief for businesses that have merely been passed on to cities and other governmental entities to kind of absorb. So, we're fortunate because we had an increase in sales tax. So kind of educate us and then our citizenry on what does that look like for a stagnant city or a declining city in the city life cycle? And then how do they handle those things? And when Weatherford gets to the point where things flatten out, what would that look like for us?
What would happen in cities like that is they would actually have to raise their no new revenue rate to be able to supplement that. And by them doing that, they would then have to pass all of those costs on to the citizens and the residents. It would have to raise those property taxes for them.
Or decrease services?
Yes.
Okay. So in saying that, our expenditures year over year are up, just like yours are at home and your businesses too, but how are we able to lower our tax rate below the no new revenue rate and manage that increase in budgeting? Just on a I'm not a smart guy, but what does that look like just on a real simple basis?
As I had talked about, we did going over the two main revenue sources we do have. Where we're fortunate is property taxes is not the only revenue we rely on. Sales tax is also a huge part of the city, and as I said, that we have increased 7% growth. In addition to having that stability there, we've also worked over the past couple of years, I would say as a city as a whole, to work with those intergovernmental contracts that we handle, to revamp those so that we are able to get 100% cost recovery on those.
Okay. And just a couple more as I dug into this again this weekend.
And we're pretty tight on when we evaluate requests. I mean, we don't bring forward frivolous requests. I mean, it's a pretty stringent system for evaluating what we replace and how we replace it. So.
Absolutely.
And so just to add to this a little bit, you said in your presentation that our tax rate is very competitive in relationship to other neighboring cities and really full service cities. So can you be more specific with that? And then the second part of my question is, how does kind of our budgeting and revenue structure compare to those cities too? What are we doing differently that's allowing us to decrease taxes when costs are going up?
Absolutely. The first part of that is one of the things that we do. We do try to, when we're going in and we're budgeting for the upcoming years, with our sales tax, we kind of talked about it in the original presentation, but the way that we budget that is we actually do take a portion of that that's only going to be utilized for one-time expenditures. So we do try to match whatever type of revenue to whatever type of spending. So therefore, one-time expenditures would be covered by one-time cost. Recurring expenditures would be covered by recurring revenue that's coming in. So that is something that, by us setting that aside, typically we are very conservative with our budgeting, so we do typically have sales tax that is left over at the end of the year, and so we can actually take those costs and actually apply those towards those one-time expenditures, such as the apparatus for fire, whether it be projects that are coming, renovations, things like that. We can do that rather than having to issue debt and have to pay the interest. So we try to be financially smart whenever making those decisions.
When you answered my fourth question and my final question for me, so I really appreciate. Yes, sir.
Mayor, if
Ms.
I
Rhodes.
may add just a couple details to that. A lot of cities, obviously, their main revenue sources are the same, sales tax and property tax. We've been very strategic in that most of our growth comes from sales tax. We're very lucky in the fact that we are right off of I-20. We get a lot of sales tax revenue from people who don't live in town. So we really try to strategize and make sure that the majority of our growth in our budget is coming directly from that revenue source, rather than relying on property tax. Unlike most cities, which have a larger property tax revenue, smaller sales tax revenue.
Right, that helps a lot. And I think it's just important for our citizens to know that we're able to do the things like build fire station number 5 and secure the apparatus that will be here when that opens. And we're able to do that because of the sound physical practice and not have to have bond elections and those things. And it's hard to justify paying interest on things that have a 10-year lifespan when you're paying it for 30 years. It just doesn't make physical sense. So I guess my point is this, is y'all go to great lengths and detail to be ultra fiscally responsible, to protect our tax rate, but to also provide the services, the quality and the quantity of services that our citizens expect. And I think we're real fortunate to be in the situation that we're in with.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions on that, comments? Thank you for that, ma'am. And then we will shift down to item 7B, receive recommendation regarding funding outside agency requests for the city's fiscal year 27 budget. And Ashley, I'm glad you didn't go far because you're back up.
Stay right here. Okay, so for this, each year, the City of Weatherford receives grants requests from local nonprofit organizations. These requests are funded using both general fund and hotel occupancy tax dollars. Staff facilitates these request process and provides the applications to council, who then funds the request at their discretion. The City Council adopted policies related to these funding requests, and they do require that each organization must be a 501c3 nonprofit, have headquarters or operating branch in the city, directly serve the city residents, be financially solvent, service being provided supplements or offsets the services of the city. It is desired that each organization has been in operation for a minimum of 3 years prior to the grant period and be in good legal standing for the past 3 years. Along with the eligibility criteria that is established within the policy, the city is also very specific about how awarded funding can be used. These requirements apply to both general fund allocations and hotel occupancy tax funding. For general fund allocations, we'll start with that one. The funding must be used for a specific program or service that was identified in the application process. The funds cannot be passed through or subgranted to other organizations. There are also restrictions on using the funding for general overhead costs such as rents, utilities, salaries, or employee benefits. And finally, all awarded funds must be used within the approved grant period. And now moving on to how the hotel occupancy tax funding, there are additional restrictions on how those can be used as well, with the overall purpose being to support and promote tourism within Weatherford. For an expense to qualify, it has to directly promote tourism and the hotel and/or convention industry as required under Chapter 351 of the Texas Tax Code. Second, the expense has to fall within one of the specific categories under state law. These categories include things such as advertising and tourism, promotion, the arts, historic preservation, certain sporting events, and qualifying transportation expenses. So for an expense to be eligible for HOT funding, it has to meet both parts of the test. It must promote tourism and fall within one of the allowable categories under law. For the FY27 budget, the city received funding requests from Casa Hope for Children, the Chamber of Commerce, the Children's Advocacy Center of Parker County, Doss Heritage, Freedom House, Parker County Committee on Aging, and United Way of Parker County. After reviewing the applications, staff is recommending funding consideration for all of the requests except for United Way of Parker County. Their proposed use of funds is to distribute city funding to other nonprofit organizations, which is not consistent with the city's policy, which does prohibit pass-through funding or sub-grants. For general fund request, city policy limits total funding to $25,000 with a maximum award of $5,000 per organization. The FY27 proposed budget does include sufficient funding to award the full $25,000 should council choose to do so. For hotel occupancy tax funding, there is no established total funding cap or maximum award per organization. The FY27 proposed budget includes sufficient funding to fully fund both HOT requests that have been submitted. At this time, staff is seeking council direction on which organizations council would like to fund, as well as the amount of funding to be awarded to each organization for FY27.
Great, thank you for that, council. They're not asking for a formal vote, but they are asking for general guidance for us and how we want to structure this in the budget. Somebody start us out.
Mayor, assuming, or staff, sorry, assuming that we were to follow suggestion and we were to exclude the United Way from this listing, would that increase each of those other items to $5,000 even?
That would be your choice to do so. Yes, we can definitely do that and do the full 25 and broken out over the 5 remaining. That would break it down to $5,000 each organization.
After reviewing the materials and the binders that we had prepared in regards to the budget, the comment made at the bottom of this slide here was my thought as well. Each of the other organizations that we worked with in the past have the proof of concept, and I understand this is United Way's. Well, actually, for clarification, is this their first application?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so at no point at ever before. It's not that there was a gap and they're coming back. It's just never before.
No, sir.
Each of the others have a very specific use, and this was almost going to be a pass-through. Not saying that those funds weren't going to be used or intended for good use, but they would just be donated into that organization and then directly donated into other organizations in the community.
Yes.
Just my thoughts there.
Was that a recommendation, sir? Just sharing your opinion.
I'm sharing my opinion at the
Okay,
moment.
great. Who's next? All righty, so the staff has recommended, based on the policy we have in place, that United Way of Parker County is a pass-through organization offering grants to agencies that we're already giving funds to. They've recommended approval of the Chamber of Commerce and Doss Heritage. They're seeking guidance from us, so a common sense direction may be $5,000 to the remaining 5 entities, which would be Parker County Committee on Aging, Manor Storehouse, Freedom House, Casa Hope for Children, and CSC of Parker County, and then $150,000 to Chamber of Commerce, $5,000 to Doss Heritage. Is anybody uncomfortable with that direction? Or any comments on it?
I could make that recommendation. That helps.
Great. Recommendation as stated by me, sir, by Councilmember Williams. Doesn't require a second. If anybody is uncomfortable with that or has another alternative, we sure want to hear it right now. We're going to offer that up for staff for a recommendation. Great. If you would kind of share with United Way
Absolutely. I will
the
contact
basis
them.
for that and help educate them. We value them as a community partner, clearly.
Absolutely.
But we want to approach this as a learning opportunity, educational piece, not just a simple denial that we don't want to support them. Council, anything else on this? Ms. Escobar, do you need anything else on this?
That's all we need.
All right.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your hard work on that. Let's shift down to item 7C, vote to propose the City of Weatherford 2026 property tax rate for FY27. We welcome Lindsay Blaine. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lindsay Blaine, Director of Finance. Tonight, we will be asking Council to vote to propose the 2026 property tax rate for the FY27 fiscal year. As you recall, the notice of tax rates, which includes the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate, was presented to Council at the August 11th meeting. Tonight, we will be taking the next step in the truth and taxation process and voting to propose a tax rate. At the conclusion of the vote tonight, we will publish the results of the vote in the Weatherford Democrat, including how each council member voted, as well as the information for the public hearing and the adoption of the tax rate, both of which will be held on September 8th. The 2026 no new revenue tax rate is 40.3187 cents per $100 of taxable value.
Lindsay, let's restate that. It's not 40.3, it's 0.403.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, it's yep. Well, I'm talking in terms of an increase of approximately 0.01 from the 2025 adopted rate. The 2026 voter approval rate is 0.527534 per $100 of taxable value, which is an increase of approximately 0.025 from the 2025 voter approval rate. The FY27 budget was developed using the FY26 tax rate of 0.392246, which held the rate flat with the 2025 tax rate and also the FY26 budget rate. Each homeowner's experience will differ based on appraised value, exemptions, and other factors. But for the average Weatherford home valued at $300,183 at the proposed tax rate of 0.392246 per $100 of taxable value, the estimated city tax on that home would be about $1,177.46. At the no new revenue rate, the bill would be $1,210.30, and at the voter approval rate, it would be $1,583.57. Holding the rate flat, therefore, saves the average homeowner about $33 compared with the no new revenue rate and about $406 compared with the voter approval rate. Per state law, we need to hold a vote to formally propose a tax rate. The suggested motion with the proposed rate is on the screen for you. Staff is recommending that the motion include the rate of 0.392246 per $100 of taxable value, which is the same rate as FY26. The rate the FY27 proposed budget was built with, and approximately 1 cent below the 2026 no new revenue rate of 0.403187. The proposed rate and each council member's vote will be included on the public notice for the September 8th public hearing published in the Weatherford Democrat. And at this time, I'll take any questions you may have before voting on the proposed tax rate for FY27.
Any questions for Lindsay Blaine on the information she shared? I know it's not the first time you've seen it, but any questions or conversations on it, council? All righty. You have the suggested motion in front of you. Mr. Tiskus, would you mind reading that for the record, sir?
I make a motion to propose a tax rate of 39.2246 cents per $100 of valuation for the fiscal year 2027 budget.
Motion made by Matt Tiskus as stated. Mr. Williams, is your second mimic that, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions, conversations, or discussion on 7C before we call for a vote? Hearing none, let's vote on it. I hit her button too early, so she's having to reset something. It's my fault, y'all. There we go. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. Y'all's computers ever do this? They just sit there after everybody hits their buttons. Motion passes. Thank you all for your participation on that. And to our department directors, city management staff, and finance team, thank you so much to have continue the quality services and that we provide to our citizens to be able to decrease our tax rate in an environment where prices of everything have gone up is really impressive, and we sure do appreciate it. I know our citizens do too. All right, council, are we ready to shift down to item 7E? Let's go down to 7D. That's why I asked. Let's hold a public hearing, consider adoption of ordinance O2026-30, and authorize the city manager to execute a development agreement concerning a request for a general plan and zoning map amendment from AG Agriculture to R3 multifamily residential with a P plan unit development overlay on an approximate 31.01 acre tract being located at 703 West Park Avenue, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, ZCH-26-0013. Welcome, Scott McDonald.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity. This evening, we're going to talk about several things and an awful lot of material. Some of you may have seen this material. I will try to be very brief but detailed to get through it. Additionally, the applicant has a presentation to run through as well. Just for proximity, this is the location map to give you an idea of where this property is located. As stated, the zoning amendment would be that from agricultural to R3 with a planned unit development overlay. The general plan amendment would be following suit with where it is currently entertainment center suburban living to urban living. This 31 acre tract is approximately 204 units of quadplexes, sixplexes. It is proposed for a 62 plus senior housing community with a density of roughly about 6.6 units per acre. The concept plan, there's an awful lot to look at on this. You've got a long list of what the amenities and what would be included in this, as well as what is being proposed. A couple things that I'd like to point out. I did provide an updated concept plan at the dais. What was published, we were awaiting some items that came out of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and just tried to get you the most current and relevant document that we could. And so that's what you have in front of you, which matches what is up on the screen, which includes a church which was not previously shown on the concept plan. And then we'll have a little bit of discussion on the red circle in that section of Claremont Drive. But the list will provide you with an overview of really what those amenities are. We've now included sizes or minimum sizes of those amenities, which is included in the ordinance and development agreement. To give you just an idea of some of the amenities, the applicant can speak in greater detail to these things, but throughout the development agreement and in the ordinance, these types of amenities are what is included in the development. The residential product will be very similar to what is depicted here in the images. It is a cottage style. They are one-story buildings. They will have private patios, individual garages. We have put requirements into the development agreement which require that they have 6 different architectural elevations. We have some separation between those elevations so that they're not next to each other and adjacent, as well as some different color schemes. The one-bedroom units will be 9 to 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms 1,100 to 1,250 square feet. Those design standards, as mentioned, will provide different elements to these structures so that when we're looking at these, it isn't necessarily looking like row housing. We'll have some different character, some offsets in the garages, greater extended porches, maybe differences in the roof effects, most definitely different color tones, as well as those color schemes throughout. Those architectural styles will not be repeated across the street or within 4 consecutive units. The interior design standards, which are also included in the development agreement, will be that of luxury vinyl tile, our quartz granite solid surface countertops, custom-built cabinets, full-size washer dryer. The clubhouse and the other amenity buildings will be similar in style to what you see depicted in the screen here. Again, within the development agreement, we have clarified that all of these structures will have a similar look and feel, as well as some of the residential product or those multifamily units would be in a similar style. The front entryway, you've got two views, one the street view, one from the interior of the development, which would be kind of the highlight of coming into the development. What we have here is just really kind of showing you the difference between what the base R3 zoning, which is on your far right, and then what is proposed to be changed within that for the senior housing development. The percentage of three-bedroom units will go down to 0% rather than 15% of those units. The percentage of carport will be 0, so they originally proposed carports. We've went to garages. The security gates, it will be open just because of the basis of what those amenities are, is that it will not be secured publicly. And then the walkways on the interior will be 4-foot sidewalks, allowing for a little bit more green space, but it'll be connecting all of the stuff internally, nothing on the public right-of-way or public sidewalks. An important component to this is really kind of getting back to what we had for our housing analysis and what we've had for multifamily units. There have been a number of multifamily or housing studies that have been performed for the city. Of that, the last housing report left us with an allocation of about 216 units. This particular property will be consisting of 204 multifamily units, or what we consider multifamily units, which would leave a remaining 12 units. And the table on the right just gives you really kind of a breakdown of what we have allocated for those units kind of going into the future through 2030. So in summary, what we have is a general plan amendment to urban living. We have the proposed zoning from R3 with a planned unit development. It is for the 62 senior housing, the 204 units, the interior standards as designed, or as presented, excuse me, the architect and design standards that we've presented as well, and the amenities. They've requested the items that I've mentioned previously, which there will be no 3-bedroom units, no carports, no security gates, and 4-foot sidewalks. All of these items have been clarified and put into the development agreement, along with some square footages that are included within that. It's important to note when we went through the Planning and Zoning Commission, this did pass 6-0. Within that, they did have some recommendations. Some of those I've mentioned so far. But a couple of big pieces to that were that the non-residential buildings must have substantial completion prior to the certificate of occupancy for the residential buildings. So their concern at Planning and Zoning is that the entitlements would be provided, the buildings would be built. As far as the residential properties, those residential properties could be used prior to the amenities being in place, and those amenities could be stalled for years or if never built. So we've modified that to ensure that those non-residential buildings or units will be constructed and have substantial completion in advance of getting any certificate of occupancies on the residential units, and that all of the non-residential units will be built consistently with what is depicted in the clubhouse. And again, that's been clarified in the development agreement and ordinance, so that way we have that. So what you'll have before you this evening will be a request for a zoning amendment, a general plan amendment, and a development agreement, really, which will be done through one action. Staff does recommend approval on the basis that this does meet all of the planned unit development criteria. As stated, the developer does have a presentation. I'm happy to stand for any questions, but it may be beneficial to listen to what the developer may have to say, and then be happy to answer any questions following.
Mayor, I do have just a general planning question, if I could. I know we have a lot of information to come forward with. This is just in general for planning. So, Mr. McDonald, the request from going from ag to R3 with the planned unit development overlay, just in the effect, it doesn't even have to be this property, say it's a different one somewhere else, and this was the request. If the construction didn't go underway within so many months or anything else, is that planned unit development overlay, zoning change, is that forever on the property, or after a certain time would it default back to ag?
It would be null and void if construction is not commenced within 18 months, is what's written into the agreement currently.
Okay, into this agreement currently.
Correct.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Great question, Mr. Williams. Certainly, if anybody else has questions now, if you want to wait, we can have the developer do his presentation and then have our public hearing and let our citizenry and constituents talk, and then we can circle back with our questions or feedback. Is everybody okay with that process? All righty. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynch, come on up, sir. Appreciate you being here. Is it okay if I call you Glenn? Is it okay if I call you Glenn?
Yes, sir.
So before you get started, we appreciate you being here. It's very, very clear, I think, to all of us that there's been a lot of work done the last 2 weeks and a week and a half, and we really appreciate that and appreciate you being here to share your presentation with us, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If you could start out with let us have your name and address for the record, then get going, sir.
Sir, my name is Glenn W. Lynch. My address is 9048 Quarry Hill Court, Fort Worth, Texas, 76179. Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm here today primarily because of a bunch of ladies that really kind of kept pushing me to do this development, and also because of the Lord, he kind of brought everything into line where I ended up with ownership of this property. I just, to save time for everybody, I'm just going to kind of go through this quickly and point to the thing. I'm primarily a multifamily developer. I've developed over 5,000 units of affordable housing. One of them, the first one I ever did, tax credit development, is actually here in Weatherford, Texas. It would be Fox Hollow Townhomes. It's located on Sweetwater Drive. We still own that today, and I did that back in 1998. On this particular development, it's kind of grown from just multifamily to a holistic for senior citizens. It would have a new location for this Weatherford Senior Center and Meals on Wheels. It'll have a daycare center for the elderly. It'll have an assisted living facility to take care of assisted. It'll also have hospice houses and a small chapel in addition to the multifamily. But me being primarily a multifamily developer, I want to talk to the need of senior citizen housing and affordable housing here in this town. Basically, this first picture is a multifamily development that I developed in about 2004. It's on the corner of Mockingbird and 35 in Dallas. It was a 16-story high-rise that sat vacant for about 20 years. I developed it into 156 affordable units, 62 age. It's still operated as that affordable housing today and meets that. I just wanted to bring this up because it has a lot of the same amenities, but there's not money to be made in a lot of this. When you do affordable housing, you use a lot of government money. Sometimes the numbers are very tight. On this particular development, I lost $1 million, but 20 years later, we're still serving a lot of good citizens, a lot of citizens that really need the help, and that's really the primary reason I do it. This was some of the amenities.
Mr. Lynch, is that the old mobile oil building?
Yes, sir. It was,
wow.
It was the old mobile building
Yes,
way
sir.
back.
I remember that as a child, and that did sit vacant for a long, long time.
We named it the Pegasus and got
Sure.
a horse out in front
Sure,
of it.
you bet.
That's exactly
Sorry.
right.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Sure was. And right now, I just want to speak really to the need and the help that elderly need. I'm 72 years old, the 12th of 13 children. 6 of my siblings have passed on. There's 7 of us still alive. And my whole family's working, but even today, I have to help 5 of my elderly citizens because they own houses. I mean, it's just hard to make it today, even if you're retired, you're on Social Security, and you got limited income. And I want to show you the need for that in this deal. If you look, this is the first one. This is going to be the rent. The rent structure is going to be 1 and 2 bedrooms. It's going to be based on 30, 50, 60, and 80% of AMI. After utilities, the rents will run from $459 to $1,454 for a 1-bedroom. And then if you go to a 2-bedroom, the same deal, it would run from $558 to $1,800. I would mention at this time, the Housing Authority, Weatherford Housing Authority, has from HUD 518 vouchers for affordable housing. They're only able to serve 416 vouchers actually rent because the rent that they pay, they get HUD-afforded rents, but the rent that they pay for housing here is higher than what HUD allows. So consequently, even though they have housing for 518, they're only able to service 416. It's just that the housing is a lot higher. If you look at this, who's this housing going to service? It's going to service like retirees on Social Security that make $22,000, a couple that might have, some pension or even a higher Social Security at 42, or retired teachers or something that have even a higher amount. I would mention in this that this is not just poor people, because when you do the income, we manage our own properties. When you do that, let's just say that a couple retired and they'd saved up $500,000 in their life, wanted to save some of that for the children. Under the guidelines of the government, I would look at the $500,000, multiply it times 1%, so that would only count as $5,000 worth of yearly income. They would take their Social Security with that, so they would not be using all of their savings. They'd be able to actually keep money to pass it on to their children or whatever. And so you won't just have what you'd call poor people living here, but you'd have people who's trying to manage their life and be able to leave something for children. One of the primary things about affordable housing when you have it is management. If you're going to have good affordable housing, you got to have good management. We have our own management company. I just mentioned this. We do both family and elderly, but some of the things that we do, we just hold people accountable that live there. We get to set some of our own rules, and some of the rules that we set, for instance, is anyone who has felony charges of any duration, we don't allow them to move into our properties. Anyone with illegal drug activity beyond a misdemeanor, we don't allow them to move into our properties. Any charges for vandalism or convictions, they don't allow. Misdemeanors beyond 2 charges except for traffic violations are not allowed. Any crimes involving violence against another person are not allowed, and any sexual offenses regardless of time frames are not allowed. We hold our tenants accountable. Do you have problems? Sometimes, but if you manage it right, we have the right to move them out and hold them accountable to our deal. And because of that, I mean, if you look at Foxhall as an example, it's a well-managed property. You just don't have problems there. And so the next thing I want to talk about, the elderly. If you look at this chart here, from 2012 to 2024, the population in Weatherford went from 25,000 to 35,778, or a 40% increase. The next line is elderly over 65. It went from 4,033 to 6,604, which is a 63% increase. So the graph on the right would show that the age is actually increasing in population in Weatherford faster than the normal population. If we go to the next chart, this is going to talk about the number of households that qualify. This is household numbers. There's 4,104 senior households in Weatherford. And of that 4,104, 49.6% of them qualify for 60% and under on income. So in other words, they qualify for this kind of affordable housing. If you look at the chart on the left, of 30%, it's 24.5% of that 4,104. 50% would be 41.8, 60% would be 49.6, and if you go to 80, it's 62.5 that actually qualify for this housing. The next chart is one that kind of gets you. If you were going to qualify to buy a house, you would use a mortgage company would use that say you cannot use over 30% of your gross income to pay for your payment. The rest of it you need to pay bills when someone buys a house. So that's a government standard for even rental. When we do rental, it's the same standard. I have to look at that number. If you look at the households that's in Weatherford, you will look and see that there is 267 of them that meet the 30% requirement. The next is 30 to 35. There's 124. Altogether, there's 849 households that are actually paying. They're burdened beyond their 30% income paying rent in Weatherford, Texas. So those that are paying rent, we have a large percentage of them that's paying more than their 30%. They're what you call severely burdened. If you look at that top deal, it says cost burden 30 plus, and then severely burdened is actually 78.5%. The next thing is the number of affordable housing. The number of total affordable housing in Parker County is 553 units. That's both family and elderly. There's none being built or proposed anywhere. The average occupancy at the time we checked was 3.2 to 3.6%, but oftentimes that's simply because someone's moving and it's turnover. It's anytime you get above 77 or something, a lot of times it's just turnover, just shows up that month. And that's basically about the development. I just know that there's a huge need, and I would, even though I know I'm not going to make no money, I would enjoy the opportunity to service some of the elderly here in this county.
Appreciate your presentation, Council. I know we're going to have a public hearing. Do you want to hold your questions for the developer and staff and circle back after the public hearing? Well, we can hear from our clients. Okay. Mr. Lynch, appreciate it, sir. Appreciate you moving through that too. Let's see. This time we're going to open up a public hearing on item 7D. We do have a multitude of speaker cards. I would ask you this, certainly all of you that filled out cards will have the right to speak, and I'll call on you. I would just respectfully ask, since we have a very full agenda tonight, if you're going to say the same exact thing that the person before you or before them said, if you could just be cognitive of that and maybe revise your comments or just say I reinforce what he said or she said, that would be great. But by all means, all of you will have the opportunity to come up if you so choose. Our first speaker card is Ms. Lynn Baber. Ms. Baber, come on forward. Thanks for your patience with us tonight. When you get settled, if we can have your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm settled. Lynn Baber, 2126 Timber Cove Court, Weatherford. And just in case, I have my glasses, Mayor. So on this project, I did speak at Planning and Zoning, and my point there was, from an intention perspective, this is fabulous. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous. And as a senior with an 85-year-old husband and have had 4 parents that we've gone through hospice and assisted living and all of those options, I'm familiar there is a need. I have been asked what my opinion on this particular project is for somebody who actually wanted to know, and I don't have one, but I have questions, and that's why I don't really have an opinion. So most of what I'm going to say in the next 2 minutes and 18 seconds are questions. So has the city reviewed any pro forma business plan? The developer has other projects, but not specifically like this one. For example, the Pegasus Villas that we saw the pictures, we don't have any of the community attachments to that. It's completely different. How will maintenance and service operations be funded? Since it's a very, very small margin and you have so much open ground and so many things that take ongoing. Gonna flip down here. Will the housing project be a landlord to its own amenities delivered by independent nonprofit organizations? That's a big one for me. Will the assisted living facility also be income tested or charge market rates? Is it open only to residents or to the public? Is it an amenity or a local business? Is the adult daycare a free amenity reserved for residents or open to the public if run by a 501c3? If it's public and not free of charge, is it really an amenity, especially when operated by an outside organization? The hospice house or houses will be operated by yet another 501c3. Again, is it a local business or an amenity of this development? The Agape Care of Texas is a 501c3, and I bring it up because in some of the letters of support that were included in the packet for the agenda, some people's letters assume that they're doing the entire project, including the house. So Agape, they don't have a record of this. They haven't run an assisted living. They haven't run some of the other things before. Really quickly, as far as site plan, a lot of the residents are going to have to cross a 4-lane arterial to get to any of the amenities. There's no sidewalks on the site plan. There's one mail center. People are going to have to drive to get their mail. They're going to have to drive to take their trash. And I have 3 seconds. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Baber, and thanks for watching the clock. I really appreciate that. It's always difficult to remind somebody. We appreciate you being here. Our second speaker is Candace Grantham. Ms. Grantham? Okay, Ms. Grantham has yielded from the floor. We appreciate you being here, ma'am. Ms. Susie Hudson. I saw Susie out there. Susie, thanks for your patience with us. Appreciate you being here, and once you get settled, if we can have your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Susie Hudson. I live at 2211 Lake Forest Drive here in Weatherford. Thank you for hearing me out. I'm going to read this because I just want to respect y'all's time and just kind of let you know what I wanted to expand on are the amenities. Alongside the affordable housing offered to our senior community, which we all understand is desperately needed, I'd like to share the benefits this community will be providing in creating a continuity of care, allowing these seniors to age in place, unlike any place else in North Texas. These amenities will also serve the public. If you're facing, we don't have the site plan up, but if you're facing the project from Claremont Boulevard, I'm going to list the buildings from the left to the right. So the community center will provide meals, activities, and vital socialization for independent seniors. The chapel, by partnering with our local churches, will provide worship and Bible study opportunities. The adult daycare, staffed with trained professionals for those needing assistance with activities of daily living, will provide socialization, meals, activities, and much-needed respite for caregivers. The small home-like assisted living provides personal, affordable, 24/7 care for those requiring assistance with activities of daily living. The hospice house will provide a peaceful place of care in the last few months of life, allowing families to be families rather than caregivers. By engaging with our community partners like Parker County Hospital District, Weatherford College, namely their programs such as the nursing department and other amazing local organizations, we will provide supportive services to enhance the lives of our residents and the citizens of Weatherford. All of this contained in a single planned development, providing a unique continuum of care while holistically supporting our aging population and allowing them to age in place with dignity. Over the past few months, we have sought input and support from the Weatherford community. You can see a sampling of the support by the letters submitted in your packet and the citizens present tonight. We ask that you grant our rezoning request to allow Claremont Senior Housing Community to move forward so Weatherford can take care of those who once took care of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Susie. Appreciate you being here. Our next speaker is Tammy Reed. Ms. Reed? Tammy, we're glad you're here. Thanks for waiting on us. Tammy, once you get settled, if we can have your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Tammy Reed. I'm at 416 Moss Lane, Weatherford, Texas, 76088. Mayor, members of the City Council, as we all know, there's tremendous community support for the Claremont Senior Housing Development and a real need for affordable senior care in Parker County. But I'd like to look at this project from a slightly different perspective, the business and the financial side. In my experience, passion and a great mission are important, but obviously they're not enough. What makes this project different is it combines passion, compassion, with strong business leadership, professional expertise, and the resources necessary to make it successful. I serve on the board of a foundation that has financially supported this project because we believe in its mission and its potential. And we will continue to support them. But what makes me confident in this project, however, is what I have seen behind the scenes. As a CPA and foundation board member, I have reviewed business plans and organizational structures of many nonprofits. I've also seen good organizations struggle because they have a passion, but they lack the business and financial expertise necessary to operate a sustainable professional organization. This one is different. You have a builder willing to invest substantial private resources, including land, time, development expertise, financing, and continued involvement. So this level of commitment tells me that this is not speculation. It is a real investment behind this vision. You also have experienced healthcare professionals and strong business leaders coming together. Susie with Agape in particular has an important synergy. She intimately understands nursing and patient care, but she also has a very strong business mind. I have seen her business plan and I have reviewed it. We had to review it during the foundation meeting to approve her funding. Add that to her compassion and determination, and you have the kind of leadership that can run and turn this great mission into a sustainable organization. So this project isn't just simply a good idea. It has an experienced, committed team capable of executing it. And that brings me to what I believe is most important. So while I understand the city has limits on multifamily development, this is obviously not a conventional apartment complex. It is a senior community designed around a very different need and purpose.
So the vision is to create independent senior housing today while developing a continuing of services. So I respectfully ask the council not to look at this project as 204 multifamily units on a spreadsheet, but look at 204 seniors and families those homes can serve. Consider the community need, consider the private investment, consider the land and resources being contributed, consider the experienced team behind it and the community organizations willing to support it like me. So this is an opportunity to address a real need with private investment, community
Ms.
support.
Tammy, your time is
Oh,
concluded.
I'm sorry. Thank you
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
your
I
time.
apologize. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see here. I can't read the first name, but it's my eyes, not your writing. Barnhart? And thank you for being here today, ma'am. We appreciate you.
Thank
Is your name Jean?
Joanne
Joanne, I
Barnhart,
wasn't even close. I'm sorry,
102
Joanne.
Mockingbird,
Thank you. Joanne, you'll have
That's just-
3 minutes.
600 West Park is
Okay.
just one block from 703 West Park.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's great. I'll probably be the first customer, okay?
There you go. Thank you,
I'm not
ma'am.
against any of it.
Yes, ma'am.
But my little thought is, how's all those people going to get there? And all those folks are going to come volunteer and work and different shifts, and how are they going to get there on West Park, I bet you?
Yes, ma'am.
So who takes care of West Park?
Yeah, this isn't a Q&A. This is an opportunity for you to make a public statement, and we will.
I'm just asking,
Yes,
do
ma'am.
you see a problem here? I mean, a little problem getting all those people there and getting them back home, or the workers. And we got two street, schools real close to us already.
Yes, ma'am.
And they got to come and go up West Park. I'm just very concerned about the street. Is the city going to work it? Is the gentleman going to put $1 in that? He's already spending a lot of money. I mean, no doubt about that. But think about our street and the people already there. Okay?
Appreciate you being here, ma'am. Thank you. Alicia Rogers. Ms. Rogers. Alicia, thanks for your patience. We're glad you're here. Once you get settled, if we can have your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Alicia Rogers. I'm at 612 West Park Avenue.
Pull that mic down just a
Sure.
touch. There you go.
I'm a
Thank
little
you, ma'am.
shorter.
We need to do that a while back, so thank you.
612 West Park Avenue. So we're about 200 feet from where this property starts. And I actually came in complete opposition after hearing everything. I have 3 parents that passed away, in-law as well, but that passed away in the past 6 years, and I took care of them. And so I was completely embedded in their culture and what we need here. And so I actually love the proposal. But I am really concerned as well about the street traffic and how it's going to go. I mean, people come off of 20 and they just whip around so fast. I mean, we see it all the time. I'm a homeschooler, so my kids see it all the time, and we've had pets die because of it. It's just like, it's not super safe as it is, but then we also have 2 schools, like she said, near us, and it gets really backed up in the morning. So I'm definitely concerned about the street. I am personally also concerned about the fact that we bought this home specifically because we're right across from the golf course, and we enjoy feeling like we're in the country, but the amenities of the city. I'm also concerned about just cutting down all the trees and all the green space. I mean, I understand Weatherford is developing, and I guess that's progress. I don't know if that's really progress in my opinion, but we have to care for our air as well. We have to care for, like how we're taking care of the people that already do live here. And so those are my concerns. And a lot of the land just years back was changed, and our property included from ag to residential. And so I love Weatherford. I love the leaders. I love everything about it. We've only been here 6 years, and I want to stay, but that's just it. I want to stay. I don't want to turn into something different than it is. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming forward and sharing your thoughts, ma'am. We appreciate that a lot. All righty, last speaker card. Van Houser, come up here, Brother Van. Didn't see you hiding back there. I'd have called you up first. And can we have your name and address so
Mr.
we
Mayor,
can all show up? And then you have 3 minutes.
I'm gonna be short. You've never heard me do this before.
No, sure.
Right?
But we're glad you're here.
3-minute sermon.
I need your name and address, and you have 3
Oh,
minutes.
that's right, sir. I'm sorry,
Yes.
sir. Van Hauser, 3621 West Biddison Street, Fort Worth, Texas. Just drove from Fort Worth, Texas. It was 3 hours and 7 minutes. And that was my second trip over here. I missed the foundation meeting because I couldn't get through the traffic to get over here, so hopefully we'll see that change. I've been before the council twice. Y'all stayed out of my business up at Northside. I stayed out of yours as much as possible. From the time I got to Northside, the one thing I heard from seniors was, we want to build something across the street so we can all live together whenever we retire. I also dealt with all those that didn't have the funds to take care of it. What this provides that's not been talked about is community. You may not know this, but seniors get lonely. And its greatest handicap, the greatest problem that seniors face, any aging people face, is loneliness. And what you have here is a community. It's not staged in floors. It's not spread out over so much room. You've got a place to congregate. You've got a place to build friends and relationships and neighbors. And I'm proud of the way New Weatherford has been growing. I'm proud of the way, knowing you have to do something with all the people. It'd always be great to say, why don't y'all go back where you came from, but that's just not going to happen. We got here for some reason. Truth of the matter is, I want you to understand that I truly believe that what you're going to do with this vote is provide one of the greatest quality opportunities for seniors in this neighborhood, in this county, and set a real pattern and set a real example for other communities. I hope this is the first one. I hope that it's just the first one to take care. You're going to get old one day. You'll figure out what I'm talking about. I met an 80-year-old woman this week at Center of Hope, where I'm a chaplain. I came in and stood beside her, and I said, how are you doing, ma'am? I haven't seen you before. And she said, it's my first time. I said, how are you doing? And she said, I guess okay. And I sat down and I said, what's I guess mean? She said, well, I've had a heart attack and 2 strokes, and I lost my job, 80 years old. Lost my job, which was my income to take care of everything. My apartment I'm in right now, the ceiling's fallen in and the sink is dropped and the landlord won't do anything about it. I put up $600 rent on an apartment for next month, but now I've got an overdue electric bill because I had to pay for my medicine. And my medicine was far beyond anything I could expect, and now that I can't pay for the medicine or I can't pay for the rent. She said, I've never been in this shape before. What do I do? She was an artist. And I said, tell you what I'm going to do. If you'll let me, I'm going to commission a picture for the cost of your electric bill, and I'm going to take care of that for you. But then we're going to figure out what to do because we don't leave seniors alone in Weatherford. It's just not what we do. And providing this is a real sign. Now I got to go. I got to get back to Fort Worth to see somebody in the hospital. I got to carry him some stuff, and I didn't plan on being this long or this late. But I'll leave you with the last 4 words I spoke at Northside. I got to go pee.
And some can relate. Oh, there's only one of a kind like that man right there. All right, y'all. Public hearing remains to be open on this item. If there's anybody else that would care to come forward and speak specifically on this item, now's your opportunity. Public hearing on item 70. Any takers? All right, this time we will close the public hearing on this item. Council, I've got a lot of my questions were clarified in this, but still have a few council discussion or questions for staff or the applicant here is here. If we'd have questions for them. Anybody? All right, I'll go first. I'm not sure who these are for. I guess the first thing I'd like to say to Mr. Lynch is, and I think most of my questions are for staff, but you have really brought forward a product that's needed in this community. And so I want you to understand that my questions tonight are not in opposition, but in clarification. Because what I learned early on is on the Planning and Zoning Commission and as mayor is that we would have developers come in and make grandiose, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and this is what it's going to look like. And we'd get to the end of a project and the capital would be gone. And then none of those amenities would come to life. And I'm not saying at all that's your intention. But history teaches you to use tools to protect your citizenry Because that's why y'all are all here. You want the senior housing and you want all the amenities that go with it. That's your expectation. And kind of the role that we play tonight is, what tools do we have in place to help protect what your expectations are and to make sure that what the developer is committed to and what he's promising is put in writing. That way the city's protected, our seniors are protected, you are protected as stakeholders for what you are here to support and represent. And everybody kind of knows what's expected from the get-go, right? And that's called a development agreement, and that's what is before us tonight. Now, the reason the development agreement started being used is because when I first became mayor and on planning and zoning, we would get to the end of these projects and the amenities weren't being delivered, and the community, the message the community received was always, well, the city just won't work with us. They're hard to work with, they just won't work with us. Well, guess what? Since we started using development agreements and everybody knows what's expected and when it's expected, that's changed drastically because everybody signs on the dotted line and everybody knows the rules going into it. So that's been a great tool, and it's really created partnerships with developers instead of an adversarial relationship. And it also guarantees that what is delivered is what was promised initially. And so a few questions, Mr. McDonald, related to the project. Will all four, based on the development agreement that's proposed tonight, will all four sides of each of the amenity buildings match? For instance, can we have a stucco facade and then 3 metal sides or cinder block sides? Do all four sides of each structure have to match the architectural design, look and materials as the front or the facade?
Correct. As presented in the exhibits, which are part of the development agreement that was shown in the presentation, that will be a 360 view of those buildings. So all four sides will be representative in a similar fashion. Of course, you wouldn't have 2 fronts to the building, but
well, sure.
Yeah,
So
the facades will each of the facades will match.
Right. Let's talk about the exhibits because they were extremely attractive, but very, very different. So the clubhouse and the fountain shows a Mediterranean style design, but then the residential structures show more of I want to call it a Key West, but I know probably neither of those are right terms. My point is they're vastly different. So what's it going to be? Because those don't go together.
And I think that's for the applicant to answer. Okay. I will say that the applicant, the developer's been very amenable to each of the changes that we've asked as we've gone through this process. And some of those were really even some of those residential structures that would be close to the amenities to have somewhat of a matching theme or tone. But I would rather direct that to the developer to answer.
That's right, and I'll do that with Mr. Lynch. But my question to you is, don't those need to be clearly defined in the development agreement? Isn't that the purpose of this tool?
Absolutely. The more detail that we can put into it, I think benefits everyone within this, that again, we have an expectation that's clear. Also, I think we need to maintain at least a little bit of flexibility to say what we have is consistent with what it is that they're applying for.
Okay. Could we also state the development agreement with staff consent or delegate y'all to work on those things? Okay.
Absolutely.
Y'all said I could go first, sorry. Will this project meet all the requirements that other multifamily and higher density projects are required to meet in today's marketplace in Weatherford? Okay. The assurance of completion of all the amenities, it says in the agreement that it has to be substantially completed. We have a revised version here that I've not had an opportunity, being totally transparent, to read page to page. But can you describe what substantially complete is? And really, layman's terms, if you will.
Sure, in the simplest form. So for someone to construct a pad or throw up 4 walls on a roof is not substantially complete. So substantially complete would be that the building is able to be occupied. Maybe there's some punch list items, some items that need to be corrected. Maybe the time of year doesn't warrant landscaping being installed, some of those types of things. But the buildings, it's life safety measures, it's occupiable, it's usable, and really all of the functions and capabilities are there.
Okay, say that again related to landscaping, because that's been a requirement in other structures.
Sometimes throughout the year, it may not be the opportune time to put landscaping in.
Okay.
This week is a bad example of when one would want to plant grass. So
there's not enough water available to keep.
There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And then the community center, this may be a developer question, but, and I believe somebody may have said this, but is it your understanding, or is it clarifying the agreement, is that available for all community members? And then I think that's probably a developer question.
I'm going to leave that for the developer to answer.
But then my question for you, if he states that it is available for all community members, does this have adequate parking? Because I don't want an occupant that's working real hard to make ends meet, as we learned, to pay their rent, not have a place to park or have somebody park in front of the garage. And so have we parked this for that, I can't read the square footage on here, but the senior center community deal, have we parked this adequately to handle if they have a large event there, or they have a bingo night, or a senior prom, senior citizen prom?
I think there's probably...
And they have those.
There's opportunities to underpark everything, right? There's absolutely opportunities. I think we've got some provisions built into this that allow for some 10% allowances in changing or advancing this. So if we get to a point as we go through the detailed review process, when we nail down what they're doing, how they're doing it, if we need to add parking, we would be able to do that at a staff level.
Okay. All righty. And this may be a developer question too. There are designations for ages 55 and 62, what constitutes residence, and I believe they're different for the two. So this is a 62 and over property, and bitch, by the way, I'll be eligible for it in about 6.5 years. So, you know, you never know, but my question is, adult children or adult grandchildren that come and want to move in and stay, how is that managed through the DA? Is that a housing deal that's not handled by us, or is that a development requirement that's established, or do you know?
I'm going to let the developer answer that question.
This is developer. And then does it state clearly in the development agreement that the city will not participate in, support any type of eminent domain activity for right-of-ways, roadways, or anything else in the DA?
That is clearly articulated within the agreement.
And then to support one of the statements that was made, I know that in our housing data that was provided to seniors, all sectors of multifamily or higher density housing is included in that. I would disaggregate this from that. I believe this is a totally separate and unique need that does clearly establish itself in our community. And so I do separate these units out from that, from my own perspective. That was all the questions that I have. We need to circle back with the developer, but does anybody have any other questions for staff? Mr. Williams.
Mr. McDonald, don't let me jump ahead here. Earlier you pointed or mentioned that red circle that was around the entrance to Claremont. Are we jumping ahead, or can we go back to that now?
No, we can go back to that.
Okay.
And I failed to mention that in the later slide. When we had some conversation with the Planning and Zoning Commission, there were a couple of elements that came through that. Those I mentioned that were enumerated in this particular piece of property, we did in fact make a change in the agreement to clarify that this will be acquired, this real estate will be acquired by the developer in advance of obtaining any permits for any construction. So kind of a safety built in. It was already in the agreement that they were required to get that we would not be utilizing eminent domain. We really just kind of put some belts and suspenders with that to say, in advance of that, you will secure that prior to getting any permits, so we don't have any chance of anything falling apart a little bit later within this. So no construction will commence. If they fail to do that within 18 months, then we're just back to it being an ag property.
Understood. Trying to separate my questions, like Mayor Pascal, between the developer and yourself. In regards to some of the citizen comments earlier, they were asking about the traffic flow on West Park. Is there any intention of having slower traffic signs or a stoplight at that intersection or anything else at this time?
We don't have anything at this time, but when we get into civils and we look at what traffic counts are, that traffic analysis or that traffic evaluation will tell us what it is that we may need to do or may not need to do, and we don't know what that's going to be. Of course, it's going to have an impact, but they are adding also some they're adding some mobility with Claremont, building all of Claremont. So we'll end up with some additional roadway that may relieve some, but we won't know that until we get into the civil drawings.
What did you say they're adding on Claremont Mobility?
They're building that Claremont, that section of Claremont, so
Okay.
they'll pick up some, at least some relief.
But there will be a TIA.
We'll have a traffic evaluation.
Anything else?
I'm good for now.
Mr. Tiskus, you have anything? Gentlemen? Mayor Pro Tem.
Kind of the same as you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Councilman Member Williams, I probably am going to double up on some of the things you said. It sounded like Bo and Luke Duke were evading Chief Hayes out there the first half of your speech. As far as the traffic analysis, that's one thing that I wrote down as the speakers were talking. What happens if there's an analysis done and Bowie is not effective as it is? Obviously, the developer pays for the analysis to be done. That gets done. Your staff reviews it. I've never seen this before, but what happens if it's not enough?
Well, and this may not be the best scenario, but I'm just going to speak globally to the fact that we typically get a traffic analysis for whatever the project is based on whatever that project might be. And a project on its own may not warrant something, i.e. a signal, an additional lane, a capital improvement. When that's the case, then we determine whose responsibility. We have a proportionality piece that we must make sure that the developer has his proportionate shared pay for, which Claremont, in this example, may be all he would be responsible to do from a transportation standpoint, which may require the city then to make a capital investment. So we would have to budget for that and look at it. But we typically look at these things a little bit more globally, and we may have multiple projects that could warrant a signal, a road widening, or whatever that may be. It's just part of what we go through and as we evaluate mobility throughout the city. And I don't know if Chad may have anything else that he
Understood, and I thought that's probably where you were going to go. And so my only concern, traffic-wise, I've got a lot of notes, and I know the rest of y'all do too. I'll be brief.
No, don't be. Let's get them all answered, Mayor Pro Tem.
Let's say
Take
it
time.
does warrant now the citizens, as you said, to make a capital investment in Bowie. Potentially, it could. Let's say it does that. Not only does that then affect the people, the homeowners that are there, that two of them came and spoke about this. If I lived on the street, I would have done the same. Now we also have all the parents that are taking kids to Bill Wright and all the parents that are taking kids to Hall as well that are affected by this. And we know that construction of streets around here does not happen overnight. That could be huge. That could be big. What do we think? I mean, when will we know? We agreed to this today, and the repercussions are Bowie's going to be tore up for a year and a half.
Well, I think some of the benefit, and again, I don't know if Chad had something to say, is that this will really ultimately take a couple, 2-3 years before it's ever occupied. In that time, we're going to be doing all of our capital improvement plans. We would be looking at mobility, and then we have other developments that may impact this same area as we do throughout the city. So we're constantly evaluating what improvements need to be made, and Chad, I don't know if you had.
I mistakenly said Bowie. I'm sorry. I meant Park. Sorry.
Yeah, so the construction of Claremont is just a default requirement of the development right now. When they go through the civil process and they look at the impacts to traffic, they may reveal that there's improvements they also need to do on West Park, and that'll be a requirement of their public improvements at that time. So it'll have to be completed. If there's some proportional impact they make, they could pay escrow so that future construction could be done, but it'll be their responsibility. And that does happen from time to time. A small example would be a turn lane off of a major arterial or something to that effect, or even a signal.
Understood. Okay. And I think the last question I had was, and I do actually remember the mayor asking this, but maybe just a hair more clarification. It came up at P&Z about substantial completion of these amenities that look, in my opinion, the amenities are one, why the people are in this room, two, why the people of our community signed those letters, and we owe it to them. Those are our people. They live here, they pay taxes here and do business here. We owe it to them to make sure that's done right, and I know that's what we're doing. What exactly does substantial completion mean? I understand you made mention of, was that your opinion? Was substantial everything but landscaping? Or is that a fact of substantial?
No, that is how I'm defining it. It doesn't mean that we cannot include that into the development agreement. It's not currently in there. But really, it is that functional, safe, operational use of a building which may not be complete. So it could be missing an appliance. It may be, typically for a CO, we expect, our certificate of occupancy, we expect everything to be complete and everything done. We do have some that will ask for a temporary certificate of occupancy if they want to stock shelves or train employees. Maybe their building's not complete, but we will not allow human occupancy in the building if any life safety measure is not in place. So these buildings, when we say substantial completion, would be a lawful occupancy. So it's substantially complete. It could be occupied, but we may have any number of things that may be incomplete, i.e. landscaping was a simple example. Parking lot striping, maybe their carpeting is not in, maybe the paintwork is incomplete, but everything else is finished. Those are the types of things that we're really dealing with. But it's truly a complete building that the life safety measures are met. It could be lawfully occupied.
Understood. Understood. I don't know that I'm exactly comfortable with that, but I understand your explanation. There's nonprofits going in these, and so to me, you would want to make sure that these buildings are ready for a certificate of occupancy by the developer before the profit generating or profit piece of the housing is. So I would like to see them, the public amenities get a certificate of occupancy at the same time that we're allowing it for the housing, just as a safeguard.
And Mayor Pro Tem, that can be stated, assuming, or in the event that this approves tonight, that can be stated as a condition of our approval, a motion and second of the development agreement. That's your pleasure or the council's pleasure.
Understood.
Donald's correct, sir?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. I totally understand your point, and I think the citizens appreciate that too, that we want to make sure this is delivered at the time and to the degree of quality that we've been talked about. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem, for now?
Not for now.
Okay. Mr. White, do you have anything, sir? MT, do you have anything? All righty. I think we had, Mr. McDonald, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we had just a few, some questions from Mr. Lynch. If you'd mind sneaking back up, Mr. Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your patience with us. You had time to take a nap back there, didn't you? Can you kind of explain, I'd mentioned the architectural references to the clubhouse and the fountain, how they differ from the other residential structures, if you will. What's your vision there, and how are we going to communicate that in the development agreement where it's kind of consistent? Does that make any sense, Glenn?
Yes, sir. Basically, when you do a multifamily development, usually you have two concepts. One concept is you finish the clubhouse and the whole amenities kind of look the same. In other words, same color roofs, same color masonry, same color brick. The facade's the same on all the units. Another style is where every unit kind of looks different. You may duplicate that down the road, but it looks more like driving to a residential community and see different housing. Okay. And I kind of followed really staff's, I think, recommendation on this, that they'd rather see different elevations and different colors. And so I kind of followed that. So this basic here is just a development, a Class A development that we did in West Texas, and that's the clubhouse that I wanted to build, so I brought that in. And the others was some that I had drawn earlier, so it doesn't. Sure. We would actually have all earth tone colors, which is what we agreed to with staff, so it would all tend to match. Although I was very specific, this particular one has a barrel style roof, and all the roofs would rather be, they'll be architectural asphalt shingles on the residential development.
Okay. Well, that helps make sense. I'm not much of a design guy, so I always need clarification on that. Is your vision on this, and if you've answered this, I apologize, sir, is these amenities for residents only or for the entire community?
Actually, I foresee that the residents themselves is for the residences, obviously, but the community deals there, the community center, the way that started was I was going to build this, plot it into extra lots. I offered this, the POCAA, that land. I said, I'll give you this land where you can build you a new facility. I think that they're in a county facility now. The county was wanting them to move. After I went through that, I found out that they'd tried to do that a few years past and had some bad experiences with it. And I came back and said, hey, look, I'll put that in my deal. I'll take it on and build that and build the chapel, and that'll be part of mine. So I'll build it, rent it to you for $1 a year. Y'all can come occupy it. That will be for all the citizens of Weatherford. So that's anybody that wants to come there to use those facilities, the Meals on Wheels. My only request was in that when they serve those meals daily, they would make those meals available for our tenants if they wanted to go there and eat. That would be part of their rental structure.
Just a point of clarification, you said to the residents of Weatherford, but I think your intention is for Parker County residents.
It's Parker County, all the Parker County residents.
Open facility.
And that's the same thing for the daycare center, for the assisted living, and for the hospice.
Okay. All righty, that helps a bunch. Thank you for that. And then the differentiation in ages 55 and 62, and I know this is a 62 property. How does this protect? Is it what protects against adult children, adult grandchildren coming and permanently living in these structures? And this is specifically designed for that 62 and over community. How do we protect against that?
Well, first off, when it's 62, those are set by government. Those are two different programs, and the 62 is the one we're using. So that's the 62 made age limit minimum. And the way you judge that is this. In our lease agreements, and we manage the property, we have something that no one can come in there without being on the lease. They cannot visit for over 60 days. So anybody that comes to stay in that house, for instance, a child has to move in or something, they have to register, and over 60 days, they have to leave the property. In other words, that's all a management function deal. So that's the way it's controlled.
So if they need to come and offer some help or assistance, or, somebody had been sick or broken a hip or whatever, bad examples, they can come do that up to 60 days.
And I'm going to tell you, sir, I'm totally honest. I love God more than I love anything in this world, and I love people second. But I'm not going to tell you I don't have a tender heart. I do. And, if we had someone in one of these houses that had somebody that needed assistance and their children came to live with them, we will go by our rules. But our rules are that they can't stay there over 60 days. But if they were helping their parents and they needed to come back and help them, and 30 days later, I would probably allow it for another 60 days. But what I will not allow is someone just to move in their kids and start taking care of their grandkids, and all of a sudden you have kids running through the neighborhood, and that would not be allowed.
That's just the answer I was looking for. Thank you for that. And then my final thing is, and kind of walk me through this in a real basic thing. You shared a lot of data, and it was really powerful, very, very powerful. And that was the second time I'd seen it. I was at Planning and Zoning, and it really even sunk in more that the need does exist. And so you talk about the percentage of AMI rate, you talked about the different percentages, but of the total 206 units, what percentage of the actual units will be at a reduced rate?
Well, I'll start off.
I'm just looking for a real simple answer. What percentage of the 206 are going to be at a reduced rate?
100% of them have to be at an average 60% average minimum, which is the reduced rate.
Okay.
So if I put some at 30, I can move some to 80 to make it. But basically, overall, the property cannot exceed 60% on an average. Okay. So they're all at a reduced rate of 60% AMI on a whole.
So all of them are at a reduced rate of some type below AMI?
That's right.
Every single unit in the complex?
Every single unit in there.
Okay. Talk to me about the qualification process for the project. You have to be near medical facilities, near educational facilities, major roads and other things. And that's why all these properties that have tried to come to Parker County have tried to come to Weatherford specifically, because the requirements that are needed to get the tax credits are in Weatherford proper. Is that a fair statement generally, sir?
Can you repeat that to me one time?
Nobody's trying to build these anywhere else but Weatherford, and it's because the items that are required to qualify for the tax credits are in our area, medical, educational, roadways, and different things. Is that generally a fair statement?
Well, it's a fair statement, but it's also available in almost any other community. I mean, as far as the AMI, meeting the AMI and affordable housing, I mean, I have a 222 unit development that's approved right now that we'll be breaking ground on in December to February. Same type facility in McKinney, Texas. So almost any city would qualify for this type housing.
Okay. And so related to the tax credits, explain to me, you go through the application process to get the tax credits. And so you take those credits and you go to a secondary market and you resell those credits to generate cash?
Yes, sir. The way it works, there's two different kind of tax credits. There's called a 9% tax credit round and there's a 4% tax credit round. The 9% tax credit round is a very competitive round. It's one that has a scoring process. You do it and you have to have a certain amount of amenities within a certain difference. It's overprescribed by about 4 to 1, 3 to 4 to 1. So for every dollar that's awarded, there ends up being $4 applied for. So only about 1 out of 25% of the people who apply get awards. The 4% tax credit is a different. It's a bond. It's based on bond allocations, and that's governed by the state. History-wise, up until last year, bonds were oversubscribed every year. So if you had $400 million worth of bonds, you'd have maybe $1 billion worth of applications. Because things have got tougher, 4% are harder. This particular development that I'm doing here is a 4% bond, so it's not a competitive deal. That's the reason I can tell you I'm going to win it, because it's that. It's only based on the availability of bonds. But currently, right now, there is an abundance of bonds. I mean, right now, there's a lot of people that can't do them. They're hard to do. They're very tight. I mean, you have to put this particular development, I'll have to probably guarantee over what it costs, $7 million, because what I do with the tax credits, this particular site falls in what you call a difficult to develop area. It's in a QCT that's based on 4%, it gets a 30% boost. So you multiply that, you get the tax credits, then I go out to investor market, there are people who syndicators, and they get banks to invest or whatever to meet CRA requirements. And I sell them the credits. So if I get $1 worth of credits, I sell it to them for, let's just say, 80 cents. So if I get $20 million, I'd get 16 million. If I had 30 million, I'd get whatever it is, 24 million worth of dollars. They end up being the 99.9% owner. I end up being the 1% owner, 1/10 of 1%, but I'm the general partner. They look at me and have my guarantees to make sure that everything complies with this through this entire period. So these properties are inspected more than any property there is. You're going to get HUD inspections twice a year. You're going to get the investor inspection. You're going to get the bank inspections. You get inspections on them. So they're well maintained. But those investors today, some people get awarded tax credits. Even the 9% round can't sell them because what the investor's looking for is somebody that they know they can trust that's going to be there and going to stay with the property. They want people who build them and own them, not sell them. A lot of people build them and sold them. I've always been one that I build them, own them, and operate them. And so,
You answered my question very well. So you sell those tax credits on the secondary market, get 80 cents on the buck.
Yes, sir.
Is that money required to go back in the project, or are you at liberty to use those dollars for anything you want?
Oh, no, 100% of it goes into that project.
Okay, is that prescribed by the state of Texas or the federal government?
That's federal government.
Okay.
And it's by federal government regulations, but it's also administered and oversaw by the state.
It's a complicated process, so I'm just trying to educate myself on it a little bit, so thank you for that, sir. Council, I'm sorry for the delay on y'all's questions, but Mayor Pro Tem, you want to start this time, or y'all want to start down here? If anybody has any questions for the developer. Start us out, Zach.
I can start us.
Thank you.
I know when the mayor had started with his questions, he had talked about what's available to tenants versus what's available to the general population. Specifically, the hospice piece. We haven't talked about that so much here, but you did during planning and zoning, and I was here watching that. The hospice piece, is that only available to tenants? Or
No.
You don't need to be a tenant and you can enter that hospice?
That's countywide.
Okay. You need to be a resident of the county.
Actually, you know what? It would be better to talk to the lady that's gonna run that. I've just agreed to build it for them.
Understood, understood. I know when Miss Debbie Dunn had talked during her testimony in P&Z, she had mentioned she painted a picture that would be inclusive to more than that, and so I
Yeah,
wanted to confirm
I
that.
think to anybody in Parker County is what I understood.
Understood. All right, I'll check that one off. I had a list of questions about the tax credits, but you've made that so clear now, I don't even understand what I thought I understood before I started.
Same thing.
So.
Aren't you glad I asked it?
Yeah, you made that worse. I am interested as far as the tax credits go. You know, you had said that the one on Mockingbird, you've already lost $1 million, and then now on this one, earlier today, you said you weren't going to make any money. That's a lot of work to not make any money, man. The other piece was really kind of the piece that we had already discussed earlier with staff, and you had discussed it at length in the community meeting that you had here in town at P&Z, and then you've done it again today, was the piece that we had talked about of just kind of making sure all of those things get done, that you've committed to the people of the community to go in addition to this multifamily housing piece. And that's all of those amenities in the front. What is your comfort level on making sure that those are complete before you get a certificate of occupancy on the housing piece? And you understand why that's a concern to me, right?
Yes, sir.
These constituents of this community are who we answer to, and you have a lot of letters gathered from people that I respect and trust and love, and you know, those are our people, and that's our flock. And so I did not say flock camera. I said that's our flock, and so I just want to really make sure that those things are done and taken care of, and I know you can respect that.
Yes, sir.
What's your comfort level on that?
I'm 100% positive it'll get done.
That's what I'm talking about.
I like that. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll turn my button
That's
off.
the answer we've had on that.
Now, I will say this, because I do want to bring this up. In our development agreement, we've set a time period of 18 months before I break ground. And I did request that they add in there, unless extended by the city council. And the reason I did that is because I could have had you better stuff here, but the thing is, you could spend $200,000 to get you, or $300,000 to get you stuff to make you feel real comfortable, and then I not get zoning. And I've already spent probably $50,000. I just said, hey, there's a limit to what I want to spend without zoning. And then once I reach that limit, then now I know I'm going to have to spend probably $1.5 million to get the financing. But with that said, there's several different government entities here. I have to deal with TDHCA. I have to deal with a nonprofit housing authority to issue the bonds. There's several things. I'll have to come back before you. You'll have to authorize that housing authority because you don't have a finance corporation here to issue bonds in this county. So I'll have to come back to you, and working with all of those, sometimes it can create a little delay because they're government entities. And what I want to get to y'all is, hey, if I make this investment to try to help a bunch of people, and sir, I really don't make money. I make some cash flow off of it when it's done, but even that's minimal. But don't let me spend $1.5 million and then don't give me a 6-month extension if I need it because of a government entity. I just want you to know that if I do have to come for that, it'll only be because of working through government. I mean,
What I'll tell you this, I'll give you a real direct answer to that. We cannot obligate future councils to those things. What I can tell you is we've extended them before where it makes sense. And there's nobody at this dais or nobody in this room that works at a local business or that owns one that wants you to seek money in this and not be successful.
and I want to help the people.
That doesn't do anybody any good, Mr. Lynch. So I would say it's on there because you saw in the multifamily data there are apartment complexes that have been proposed in zone, and they're eating up some of that capacity that they didn't have their capital stacked together, and they weren't on the clock to start development. So they're eating up our capacity because they're not on the shot clock, if you will. And the odds of that happening, some of them have been on there 7-8 years. And so that's why we have that. But just recently, we extended one not too long ago. If it makes sense, I think this council's going to hear you out and offer some goodwill on that.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem, back to you, sir. Anything else?
Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. White. Mr. Williams?
Yes. I had one that I copied down. I'll keep it quick, though. I know we've been discussing this for a little while. I believe it was Ms. Baber earlier who made the comment about all the green space on this development. I love to see that. Hey, that's always nice to see looking at the site plan. But common area maintenance, who maintains the landscape and everything else through that for years to come?
We have our own management company, so therefore we do our own maintenance, everything.
Okay, and would that be funded through the grants and the bonds, or?
No, sir. Basically, the way the maintenance works is it's just like, I do my financing and I set aside based on lenders, because I'll basically, let's just say this is a $40 million development, okay? Then maybe I sell $25 million worth of bonds. I have to get $15 million worth of permanent financing to make up the difference.
Right.
That permanent financing lender is going to require me to set aside my money for operating costs, which will include everything from maintenance to maintaining the property to management to paying your city taxes to paying insurance and everything. So that's all included in. That's done by myself, like HUD would do that, make sure that you had enough money based off all these numbers, and then I borrow the money for the rest. So basically, it's ongoing occupancy and income from that property that ultimately pays for that.
That answer your question, sir?
It does.
Yeah. Everybody wants to get in development. It's real easy, right, Mr. Lynch?
Yeah, well.
Mr. T, did you have any questions, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here and for walking through this process with us and with our P&Z. It seems like you have the passion for the project, which is exciting. It's obvious that it's needed in our community. It looks like a beautiful project. It seems like we have a great developers agreement put together here. As we sit here to cast the vote, we've talked a lot. I think we've beat it to death pretty well here. In 60 seconds or less, just encapsulate kind of everything we've discussed. Why you're the right partner for this project. Why should we vote yes?
Sir, I can do it in less. I love people, and I care about people, and I do it. That's what drives me in this business. It's not money. I'm telling you that right now. It's not money. The only thing you take to heaven with you is what you give away, and I give away a lot. I got a lot stored up.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions, council? Circling back on this, we heard two, not concerns, not issues, but points that could be clarified if somebody wants to present a motion on the item. A clarification of substantially complete to complete, something that's been possibly expressed, and then also a delegation to staff to work with Mr. Lynch on specific and stated design features, colors, textures, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know all the words. Those are the two things that I took out of the aggregate conversation. Mr. Smith, Mayor Pro Tem, you've got your mic queued. Go ahead.
Just one moment.
Okay.
I don't also have the words. Let me get them written down here.
We're going to get this right, so let's take our time and get it right. Mr. Smith, another option I can provide is we can take a brief recess and you can meet with staff and council if you're putting together wording and you prefer to do that. What's your pleasure?
I think I'm okay.
All right, everybody just sit tight.
Could I make a suggestion? Do you mind?
I think we're okay. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Lynch, I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would like to make a motion of approval of item number 7D, but add in that design quality and, or rather design materials are looked at and agreed upon at a staff level, and that we change the verbiage to read something along the lines of completion of the auxiliary buildings to a certificate of occupancy status in order to get a certificate of occupancy on the housing piece.
Mayor Pro Tem has made a motion and has clearly stated it, and we thank you for that, sir. I know staff and the applicant do too. If you hit your button on your screen, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second on the motion? Mr. Williams has provided a second on this, council. You do have one more opportunity for questions, comments, clarifications. Speak now, we're going to vote on it. Let's vote on item 7D. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. That item passes unanimously. Congratulations. All righty, let's shift down to 7E, kind of a complimentary item. Consider request for preliminary plat approval for Claremont Addition, being 4 lots on approximately 31.01 acres of land being located at 703 West Park Avenue, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBDP-26-00005.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Scott McDonald, Director of Development Services. This property should look familiar to you. We just discussed and ultimately passed a development agreement and zoning change. On this particular property, the applicant's original request was for a preliminary plat for 4 lots, the 31 acres. This plat has ultimately changed because we're not phasing this development, that it will be 2 lots, not the 4 lots, and the reason it's 2 lots because it's divided by Claremont. There were a number of outstanding comments. The applicant was not able to get those things in, so the easiest, cleanest way to do this was going to ask for a motion for disapproval of the plat. That will give the opportunity for those corrections to be made, submitted to staff, and we can timely get that back to them and bring it back before this body for approval.
Scott, you just want to clarify the timeline associated with that, just the 30-day shot clock so everybody understands why there's the recommendation.
Absolutely. So any application that comes in for platting through the state of Texas, we are required to take action within 30 days. And so council has the opportunity for approve with corrections, or disapprove a plat. This particular plat had, like I say, significant changes that weren't going to necessarily make this. Rather than withdrawing that application, we just asked that the applicant support us when we just are going to make a motion for disapproval. They can bring that back to us. The shot clock for review for us is shorter. The applicant would get it back sooner, and they would not have to pay, again, additional fees to resubmit for a plat application.
No additional fees?
Correct.
Okay.
And that doesn't change the council's support with the zoning that was just passed, just to clarify for everybody.
That is correct. This is just a simple plat, a preliminary plat at that, and yeah, the zoning doesn't change. They can continue to work through the process. They are already making corrections to this plat as we speak, understanding that that had to occur either way.
And we've explained to the applicant a disapproval is, hey, go get it fixed, come right back and see us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, this was the most painless way that we could do this to provide the best quality service.
Great, okay. Any questions for Mr. McDonald on the item? Council staff is recommending disapproval and has stated why, and there's a pathway for him to come right back when it gets corrected. Entertain a motion if that's your pleasure. One more time, hit it again. There you go. Mr. Williams, go ahead.
Make a motion to disapprove on behalf of staff and the customer, and the applicant.
Mr. Tiskus, you second that motion, sir?
So moved.
Any discussion on item 70 before we call for a vote? Hearing none, let's vote on it. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And that item is disapproved. Council, it is 7:56 p.m. Let's take about a 4-minute recess. We'll reconvene back here at 8 o'clock. regarding a voluntary annexation of a 9.434 acre tract of land owned by Pat and John's Adventures and Investments dedicated to St. Joseph's LLC and to the city of Weatherford, Texas, ANX-25-0003. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I've taken the liberty of consolidating several presentations into one. So I'm going to go through where you have several items. I have a fan. Several items, then you'll just hear one presentation, but you will have to consider each of those independently. So we have a voluntary annexation, a general plan and zoning amendment, and a final plat for 1726 North Main. The location map here will illustrate where that property is located. This site has been largely developed and is currently in use. It is in our ETJ, not within the corporate limits, so they do abut. It is a 9.4 acre tract. It is currently used as a business park. It does have a laundromat, and they are proposing to put a future restaurant on the front portion of this site. They're asking for voluntary annexation. They are looking to get city services. This is the first and only public hearing that you'll have that would be effectively annexed immediately upon passage of the ordinance if you're so inclined. It by default will go to an ag zoning. Then we would be looking for the zoning change as a portion of this, and we do have a service plan that has been worked through related to utilities. As stated, the zoning would be placeholder of an ag zoning. We'd be asking for C1 for general commercial. The general plan would be amended to reflect where it is at manufactured and suburban living to a community commercial, which is actually a little less impactful. This is also for the final plat. The final plat, you'll see that dotted line that goes down through the center. That will be a public utility easement that ultimately is where the wastewater will go through. It'll go to the east side of the property, down and around, and connect to Madison Street on the south side of that. This final plat is for a singular lot. Those public improvements will be installed, approved, and accepted by the city prior to recording of the final plat. Staff does recommend approval for all of these requests. The Planning and Zoning Commission did vote favorably 6-0 to approve the general plan, zoning map amendment, and the final plat at their last meeting. Again, this will be 3 separate actions: a voluntary annexation, general plan and zoning map amendment, and a final plat.
First thing we need to do is hit our button so people can hear us. Council, we have to have a public hearing. Do y'all want to have a discussion first, or go ahead and have a public hearing? All right, we'll go ahead and have the public hearing on this item. Public hearing is now open on item 7F. If there's anybody that would like to speak specifically on this item, now is your opportunity. And my understanding is we do not have any speaker cards, but you can come forward from the floor if that's your pleasure. Yes, sir, come on forward. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience with us.
Of course, no problem.
We have your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Reese Flanagan, 306 West 7th Street, Fort Worth, Texas. Civil engineer on the project, just here to answer any questions that staff may have.
Okay. Mr. Flanagan's offered himself up to answer any questions. Council, any questions for him? Mr. White.
Okay, so you've got the property now, and is there an approved on-site sewage facility on the property through the county? Because you were in the county.
There is a septic system on site today.
Is it approved?
A portion, to my knowledge, a portion of it is. The laundromat facility is the...
So it's an unpermitted, illegal septic system?
I guess you could say part of it is. The laundromat facility is, the office piece, to my knowledge, is operating on a legally permitted septic system.
It was the only permit that you would have to get in the county, the septic.
I'm sorry?
It would be the only permit that you would have had to gotten in the county, the
Correct.
septic.
I don't know if there's 2 separate septic permits currently operating.
Does civil engineering handle that component, or is that another engineer that handles that?
We were brought in after this happened, essentially.
Have you done an assessment on the project status as it currently sits?
We are here because the laundromat is currently operating with a septic system that is not permitted properly.
So the answer to this question is it's not.
That is the desire for the city septic, or the city sewer system.
Okay.
I do believe the offices on the south end of the property are operating on a legally permitted septic system.
Okay, great. Mr. White, any other questions?
So would you still, okay, I know you're gonna hook up part of it to sewer.
Yes, sir.
Is there a part that would still be on a septic system?
If it is permitted and we can keep the offices
So
on the existing.
you would permit it through the city of Weatherford?
Yes, everything would have to be, since it would be all city property at that point.
Good questions. Okay. Anything else, Mr. White? Anything else?
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? This gentleman is civil engineer.
Mayor, I would piggyback off of the direction Rod was going, or Mr. White was going with that. Is there a requirement then? I'm assuming it's currently operating under the City of Weatherford Electric.
I would assume so. I don't know for sure.
Let's don't assume. Let's ask staff. Can somebody
Yeah, is that in
answer
CC?
question?
Is that in the City of Weatherford CCN? And if we want to look into that, my second question to that would be, it is,
Yes, Weatherford Electric's providing.
would all water operations then run through the City of Weatherford, or would there be well-permitted use? I'm assuming that there's one
No,
operating.
I do believe all facilities would operate off city water at that point. That is the goal.
Through annexation, all utility usage would be through City of Weatherford, just to clarify.
All water, at a minimum, the sewer for the laundry facility, laundromat. To my knowledge, the only piece that would potentially still operate off a non-city system would be the offices off a state-permitted septic system at that point.
Any other questions for this gentleman? How many years you been a civil engineer?
I'm sorry?
How many years you been a civil engineer?
How many years have I been doing it? 15.
How many projects have been finished, ground up, and then you get hired to bring them in for an annexation that's voluntary?
More than there should be. I mean, this case is a little unique. It's only been once or twice, I would say, that a project had to be annexed after the fact.
That was my question. How many, after they've been built, have been brought in to be voluntarily annexed?
In my career, less than 5, probably.
All right. Any other questions for this gentleman?
So would you have a problem with going ahead and putting or installing a new septic system for the portion that you're going to try to keep?
I believe it would have to be re-permitted, or at least verified by the county and the state.
So it could be done pretty quick?
I think it would have to be. If the offices stay permitted on a septic system, it would have to be permitted through the state at that point.
Okay, thank you.
I think the benefit, if I could say, to be annexed into the city is to have access to gravity sewer, and if there is a reason, which this kind of leaves the realm of civil engineering, this goes into the sanitarian world a little bit. If there is any reason the offices cannot stay on a septic system, being annexed in allows us access to a city gravity sewer system, and that's a huge piece of this. Right now, those offices are on the south end of the property, southeast side of the property. It's much lower than the west side. So to get those into a city system, that means the lift station would have to be pulled much further east to access the offices for sewer services. I think that's the reason we would like to probably keep it on septic, assuming the state will permit that. Otherwise, the septic system would have to, or otherwise the lift station would have to service the entire property.
Great questions. Any others for this gentleman? Mr. Hurtado.
The restaurant that's proposed out there, is that going to go into the city sewer as well?
If the restaurant happens, yes, it will have to go into the city sewer. It's on the west side. It would be on the west side of the laundromat. To my knowledge, the developer is probably listening into this. He would like to do that. We have not been hired, and to my knowledge, there are no site plans for the restaurant yet. But it would be on city public sewer.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I hate to rapid fire, we're kind of coming at you, right?
No worries.
And the reality is you're a civil engineer that was hired to work for the applicant who is not here to address council for questions.
Sure.
And so that part's a little bit concerning. If we know for sure that we've gotten this far in a project where they're doing dirt work on a restaurant literally today, and we have a laundromat that's non-conforming with the only permit they had to pull from the city, which was for the sewer, or for the county rather, which was for the sewer. What else are we gaining with this project of all that you see in that picture that was not done correctly? That's a little bit concerning, right? And unfortunately, that's not a question that you can really answer, I wouldn't think, because you're not the applicant that we need to be asking these questions to, right?
No, sir. If there was dirt work happening today for the restaurant, I can sincerely say I did not know that.
There was.
And I don't know if a permit was requested or anything of that nature.
It's a great question. Do you have any others? I mean, we've got 11 completed structures on the property already, and here we're sitting, wanting to come into the city because we can't get sewer that's legal. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
And if I may.
Yes, sir.
I can only speak for the existing structures. It was my understanding if a restaurant was to be proposed at any point, they must go through the appropriate city permitting processes. I don't know if that happened. It sounds like it did not today. But I do know the request today is simply for the existing property as it sits. I think the future use that's being referenced, that is simply to be allowed by the zoning right. We're not asking for a permit for the restaurant today, if that means anything.
We appreciate you coming forward today and doing your very best to answer our questions. We respect that a lot, sir. Thank you. Public hearing on item 7F remains open. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak on this item specifically? Now's your opportunity to come forward. 7, Frank. Public hearing is open.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All righty. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council, discussion on the item? I've got a question for staff. Mr. McDonald, do we have any, if we had the ability to assess, or do we have any degree of measured certainty that the existing structures have been built to applicable codes that are to our degree, our level?
I can tell you, I haven't inspected the buildings, so I've evaluated it's on site. It's pretty typical construction. I didn't see anything that was overly glaring. Absolutely happy to walk through and inspect if council so required, but just walking through and evaluating each of the structures, I didn't see anything that was alarming, that caused any concern. That is all currently served by Weatherford Electric. All of those structures, again, we have a substation immediately adjacent to. I can speak to some of the septic issues or concerns if those questions need to be answered. I'm happy to tackle that. I have worked with Parker County on this, have worked with the applicant, and I was in conversation with the applicant today on the dirt work that was occurring on the front side of that property. Today. The applicant is out of state, but they have engineered plans for the restaurant. They have an engineer design. The bank is holding their feet to the fire on how it is that they do what they do. I told him that all that permitting would be through the city. I have an expectation that they would have engineering on the soils and the compaction of the soils. I made the assumption that soil was not put in lifts, nor was it compacted, but anything that's constructed or permitted within the city of Weatherford would be. So those expectations were set out there. I did not speak with the contractor that's doing the work. It's separate from that of the owner of the property. Just two different entities, just did not have that dialogue. So that was a long-winded answer to your original question, which was the buildings on site appear to be adequate.
Very well. All right, Council 7F, questions, conversations, discussion.
Mr. McDonald, my concern would be if they've got an unpermitted septic. I realize portion of it, part of the property is going to go into the sewer, and we're set up for that. I just don't want them to get any credit for an on-site sewage facility that was never permitted. I would like for that to be re-permitted personally.
So ultimately, I think there's going to have to be an evaluation. So an RS will have to do an evaluation of that system and what the condition of that system is. It was permitted for a portion of that property, certainly not for the laundromat, Parker County was looking to take it to the next level. I told them that they're going through the process of annexation and getting water and wastewater services, that those wastewater services will be for anything else connecting to include that laundromat, the restaurant. We would not allow any further. So we would take over responsibility and permitting, but that would have to be evaluated to ensure that the integrity of that system, if it's still okay or acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Glad you asked it, Mr. White. Council, entertain a motion if it's your pleasure. We can continue further discussion. Got a staff here and a civil engineer here. If we don't receive any action soon, the item's going to die, and we will move on. So what is your pleasure? Hearing no motion on item 7F, Mr. Counselor, what are my options? I can move on to 7G, which will not be relevant at this point, or is that something that we still should consider? I know I would read the agenda item and have the public hearing because we have published that, but what are my options on that, or our options?
Mayor and council, and I'll ask for Scott's input too. My thought is if you decline to annex the property, then item 7G and item 7H basically are irrelevant and go away.
Okay. So we're not necessarily declining. There's been no motion for action, so I don't want to state that as a decline. If there is no action, would the process you just defined be accurate moving forward?
Yes, I think so.
Council, last call for 7F. Is there an action you want to take? Hearing none, we will go down to item 7G, which is hold a public hearing, consider adoption of ordinance O2026-31 concerning a request for a general plan and zoning map amendment from AG Agriculture to C1 General Commercial on an approximate 9.434 acre tract being located at 1726 North Main, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, ZCH-26-0012. We'll pause briefly. Mr. McDonald, did you get your question answered?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, if this property is not annexed into the city, we have no legal authority to have a public hearing on zoning.
Correct.
So the goal was to annex and have that public hearing.
So
But at this point,
did read the agenda item because it was published, and the public expects that. No premise to hold a public hearing from this item specifically is what I'm hearing. Mr. Alabon, okay?
Correct.
And then, sir, we will shift down to item 7H, which is consider request for final plat approval for North Weatherford Business Park Addition being one lot on approximately 9.434 acres of land, being located at 1726 North Main, City of Weatherford, Parker County, Texas, SBD-26-0004. Mr. McDonald, recommended action on this now, sir.
at this point, because this is not going to be annexed into the city, we're talking about city services. We would not want to approve this plat in its current conditions.
So staff's recommendation is for denial or no action?
Denial at this point.
Mr. Alabama?
Concur.
Okay. Staff's recommendation is 7H is denied based on the action that we did not take on 7F or 7G. Council, what's your pleasure?
Motion to deny.
Matt Tiskus provides a motion for denial of item 7H. Luke Williams provides a second for that.
Second, yes, Mayor.
Any questions, conversations on the item before we call for a vote? All righty, let's vote on 7H. An item is denied. Let's shift down to 7I, consider revisions to the downtown restaurant incentive policy. Ashley Seiler, you win the award for patience this evening.
I don't know about you, Mayor, but there's nothing that excites me more than some restaurants coming into our city.
Clearly, have you taken a look at me lately?
Ashley Seiler, Director of Economic Development. Mayor and Council, today I have before you a downtown restaurant incentive policy update. Over the last few years, we've learned a lot through conversations with restaurant operators, developers, investors, as well as just from ourselves in administering this program. We know restaurants are an important catalyst for our downtown revitalization, and they generate activity and sales tax. They support surrounding businesses, they activate underutilized buildings, and they create destinations that draw people to Weatherford. At the April 2026 Council Retreat, Council directed staff to discontinue the Facade Improvement Grant Program and move the remaining funds to the Restaurant Incentive Program, increasing the available funding from $200,000 to $400,000. More importantly, both council and the Weatherford Economic Development Board challenged staff to rethink the structure of the program and better align the city's investment with the level of private investment. The revised policy before you today reflects that direction and subsequent Weatherford Economic Development Board feedback. Specifically, the investment tiers and leverage ratios are a direct result of Weatherford Economic Development's board review along with staff. Again, with the goal to create a stronger correlation between private investment and public participation. And you can see those tiers represented on the screen. We've also strengthened the application requirements. For an example, we previously required a menu, but that was not inked in the document itself. Applicants will now be responsible for demonstrating the project's potential impact by providing information on projected city sales tax, job creation, private investment, downtown activation, anticipated return on investment, and financial capacity to complete the project. This information was considered previously, but staff carried majority of that responsibility in developing the analysis. The revised policy will place that responsibility on the applicant as well as staff overview. Again, ultimately, this policy gives us a more structured and accountable tool to recruit meaningful private investment and economic impact in our downtown central business district. The Weatherford Economic Development Board reviewed this revised policy and recommended approval. Staff also requests approval of this revised document today. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Seiler. Any questions related to the revisions to the downtown restaurant incentive policy? Council? Staff's recommending approval is presented. Entertain a motion if that's your pleasure at this time. That button one more time. There you go. It's kind of sticking tonight.
Sorry about that, Mayor. I will make a motion for approval.
By Luke Williams, a second provided by Rod White. That was for approval. Any questions, conversations on this item before we call for a vote?
Mayor, I would just like to thank staff for the time, and this is something that's been built a handful of times. It's been revised a handful of times, and it's always with the intention to make it clear for applicants to come forward what the expectation is early on in the process and across the board. Keep it as black and white as possible, which makes it and allows for it to be more subjective whenever it comes forward for economic development, council, and staff revisions. So thank you for your time and effort on that.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Williams, you also do serve on that Economic Development Board. I believe you've just been elected as chair, so congratulations on that. Voluntold, whatever you want to call it. All right, we've got a motion and a second on the floor for approval of the downtown restaurant incentive policy. Any other questions or conversations? Let's vote on 7I. And that passes. Let's move down to 7J, consider approval of the Parker County Mutual Aid Agreement and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city of Weatherford. Chief Jonathan Peacock. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Jonathan Peacock, Fire Chief, Mayor, Council. This item requesting before you is approval for updated Parker County Mutual Aid Agreement and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. Weatherford Fire Rescue has participated in the Regional Mutual Aid Agreement with fire departments and emergency service districts throughout Parker County since the current agreement was developed in 2016. Through meetings of the Parker County Public Safety Alliance, the participating agencies determined that the existing agreement had become outdated and needed to be revised. Weatherford Fire Rescue took the lead in updating the agreement, working with participating agencies and incorporating input from the Parker County Public Safety Alliance. The final agreement has also been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. The purpose of the agreement remains the same. It provides a formal framework that allows us to request additional personnel, apparatus, equipment, and specialized resources when an emergency exceeds the resources we have immediately available. In turn, it allows Weatherford to provide assistance to our neighboring agencies when they need additional resources. There are several significant updates to the agreement. The participating agencies have been updated, including addition of Mineral Wells Fire and EMS. The agreement also more clearly defines rescue services that can be provided through mutual aid, including vehicle extrication, high angle and rope rescue, confined space rescue, trench rescue, structural collapse rescue, and water rescue. It also clarifies operational responsibilities, reimbursement procedures, record retention, liability, and line of duty protections. One provision I want to specifically point out is that Weatherford maintains control of its resources. The agreement does not require us to send personnel or equipment if, in our judgment, doing so would leave Weatherford inadequately protected. The decision to provide assistance remains with Weatherford. There's no immediate financial impact associated with approving the agreement. For mutual aid responses lasting less than 12 consecutive hours, the agencies do not seek reimbursement from one another. For responses exceeding 12 hours, the agreement provides a process for reimbursement of eligible costs using the current FEMA reimbursement schedule. Mutual aid is an important part of the fire service. No individual department can reasonably maintain enough personnel, apparatus, and specialized resources to independently handle very large scale or unusual emergencies it may face. This agreement allows us to combine regional resources when they are needed while maintaining local control of our personnel and equipment. Staff recommends approval of the Parker County Mutual Aid Agreement and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Question for Chief Peacock on the agreement. Chief, who makes that, and I appreciate the inclusion and the point you made of that we're going to make sure that we don't deplete our resources. We care about our neighbors. We want to work with them. But who makes that call on shifts? Is that the battalion chief that makes that call at the time?
Battalion chief, that level set up based on our existing policies that stand in place, what we can and can't do, what we have to hold back to maintain coverage in the city.
Yes, sir. Policy-driven decision.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Staff's recommending approval. Council, any other questions, conversations, or discussion? Be happy to entertain a motion if that's your pleasure. Mr. Tiskus, your motion to approve, sir?
Yes, it is.
Second, provided by Luke Williams.
Yes, Mayor.
Any discussion or questions on 7J before we call for a vote? Hearing none, let's vote on it. Please indicate yea or nay on your touch screens. And that passes. Thanks, Chief Peacock. Council, let's bounce on down to item 11, citizen comments on non-agenda items. We've got some citizens that have filled out speaker cards that have been so patient with us tonight. So let's hear what our citizens have to say before we go into executive session for item 9. The first one we have is Dickie Netherland. I believe that that person has left the room. Mr. Netherland, Ms. Netherland? Okay. Mike McCarty. Mr. McCarty, saw you here earlier. Come on up here, sir. Mr. McCarty, once you get settled, if we can have your name and address, then you'll have to.
Sounds about right.
Yes, sir. Anything better than that's 2.
I'm Mike McCarty, 325 Bent Oak Road, Weatherford 76086. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I am here just to speak briefly in support of a item of interest to the Weatherford Art Association. I have probably the best position in that organization. I'm a past president. During my tenure as president was when the city and the association were happy to enter into an agreement it resulted in the Firehouse Art Gallery and facility there at the old City Hall. And we always greatly appreciated the ability to work with the city and do that. You should have each received either an email or snail mail or both a communication from our current president, Kathy Cunning, regarding the possibility of discussing with you all, when it becomes available, the disposition of the depot structure that is currently occupied by the Chamber of Commerce that I understand are looking to go to other facilities. We've in the past enjoyed working with the city. We think we can also provide a good current partnership with you and utilize that facility as an art gallery or a little educational facility for students and adults that enjoy bringing art and enjoying the support of the city and bringing that to the city of Weatherford. If I might, I would like the members of the Art Association that have come in support of this just to stand and we all express our appreciation. Express our appreciation for having the opportunity to speak with you and look forward to the chance when that structure comes up to discuss how we could maybe revisit that very good association we had 25 years ago. That would take care of my remarks, I guess. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarty. Much respect, sir. Thanks for being here. Thank you all for being here.
We have lots of art. We want you to know fine art.
Mr. Zachary Nichols? Zachary? Mr. Nichols, Zachary Nichols, last call. And then Catherine Priest. Catherine? Catherine Priest. Last call. All righty. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak on any item that we've not talked about here this evening on our agenda, now's your opportunity. I see a hand up. Come on up, ma'am.
Candace Grantham, 1801 Abelia Lane.
Candace, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. You started talking before you got to the mic. Let me have your name and address. And
Candace Grantham, 1801 Abelia Lane, Weatherford, Texas.
And you'll have 3 minutes, Ms. Candace.
It won't take long. Thank y'all for passing 7J. Unfortunately, I've had the unpleasure of being up at Palo Pinto for the last 2 days from 5 o'clock on, watching the fires, and they need all the help they can get, but thank y'all for passing this mutual aid. There's fire trucks from Odessa, Midland, Ward County, where I was born, and Ector County, where I grew up. So thank y'all.
Appreciate you coming
They
forward.
need everything.
Thank you. Appreciate you, ma'am. Citizen comments on non-agenda items. Anybody like to speak on any item that we've not covered this evening specifically? Now's your opportunity. Seeing none, we will bounce back up to item 8, future agenda items. Mr. City Manager, anything, sir?
Just a reminder, the next council meeting, September 8th, we will adopt a budget, we will adopt a tax rate, and of course, the budget and proposed tax rate are all built around a rate below the no new revenue rate. So below the no new revenue rate.
City Council, future agenda items, gentlemen?
Mr. Hotop will be a year older next council meeting.
Yes, sir, he will.
Yes.
Item 9 on the agenda is executive session items will be in the South Conference Room for items 9A, Section 551-072, 119 Palo Pinto Street, 9B, Section 551-072, 221 North Main Street, item 9C, Section 551-072, 401 Fort Worth Highway. All 3 of those are for deliberation regarding real property. We are recessed at 8:38, where we will reconvene back in this room for items 10 and 12. We're in recess. Session, 9:19 PM. City Council, do you have any, item 10 on the agenda, action on executive session items. City Council, do you have any desire to take action on items 9A, B, or C this evening? Hearing none, Weatherford City Council stands adjourned at 9:19 PM. Thank you all for your service.